All right, so let's dive into this Trump on Rogan thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild, right? Like, imagine just scrolling through your podcast app
Right.
and seeing Donald Trump's name pop up
Oh, yeah.
as a guest on the Joe Rogan Experience.
It's definitely a big deal.
Like, what do you make of it?
Well, I think you got to hand it to him.
Yeah?
It's a smart move.
Right.
I mean, think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Rogan has the biggest podcast in the U.S.
Huge.
And his audience,
Yeah.
it's like a gold mine for any politician,
Exactly.
especially someone like Trump.
Yeah, especially right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing him pop up on all sorts of podcasts these days.
Yeah, like Theo Von's show.
Exactly. Theo Von.
Huge following among young men.
It's like he's got this whole strategy mapped out.
Oh, absolutely.
Target these young male voters.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting?
What's that?
This demographic,
Mm-hmm.
they don't really have a great track record.
You mean with voting?
Yeah, they have notoriously low voter turnout rates.
Right.
So if Trump can actually get them engaged
Yeah.
through these podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
it could be a real game changer come election time.
Okay, so it's like a political strategy, but disguised as just casual podcast appearances.
Exactly. It's brilliant.
But okay, here's the thing I don't get.
What's that?
Trump and Rogan haven't always seen eye to eye.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Remember that whole thing where Trump publicly criticized Rogan?
Over the Robert Kennedy Jr. comments?
Yes.
Exactly.
That was pretty wild.
Yeah, it's not like they're best buds or anything.
No, definitely not.
So why now?
Well,
Why go on the show now?
you got to think like Trump Rogan has millions of listeners,
Right.
that kind of exposure.
Yeah.
It's worth putting aside any personal disagreements.
So it's all about reaching those voters directly.
Direct line.
Right to them.
Plus, don't forget the media frenzy.
Oh, yeah. The headlines.
Social media buzz.
Everyone's talking about it,
Exactly.
whether they love him or hate him. It doesn't matter. He's in the spotlight.
And that's what he wants.
Always.
So it's working.
Definitely working.
Okay, so speaking of the election,
Yeah.
did you catch that part in the article?
About Kamala Harris
Yes.
reaching out to Rogan.
Her campaign's been talking to his team.
Wow.
Imagine if they both end up on his show.
That would be insane.
Yeah, imagine.
Both presidential candidates.
In the same podcast.
It makes you think
About what?
about the power of podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, are they the new town hall?
Interesting.
You know, these long form conversations,
Mm-hmm.
they feel more authentic,
Norway.
less staged than traditional media.
I see what you're saying.
Could they actually sway voters?
Especially younger voters
Yeah, the ones who aren't watching cable news.
who are tuning into podcasts instead.
Exactly.
It's fascinating.
It is.
Trump on Rogan.
Yeah,
Maybe Harris on Rogan too.
who knows? It's a whole new world of politics.
Definitely. What do you think?
About all of it. I think it's a sign of things to come.
How so?
This is how candidates are going to connect with voters
You think so? I do.
in the future.
Yeah, through these online platforms.
It's kind of wild, right?
It is.
We've come a long way from the days of just debates and town halls.
For sure.
It makes you wonder what's next.
Exactly.
Well, that's something to think about.
Yeah,
Thanks for breaking it all down.
of course.
This has been a fascinating deep dive.
I agree.
We'll have to see how it all plays out.
Yeah.
Until next time,
See ya.
stay curious
Always.
and keep listening.
On August 22nd, 2024, a significant controversy unfolded involving Beyonce, former President Donald Trump, and Vice President Kamala Harris. The issue centered around the unauthorized use of Beyonce's song Freedom by Trump's campaign, which led to a cease and desist order from the singer's representatives. This incident highlights the intersection of music, politics, and intellectual property rights, and it underscores the broader cultural and political tensions in the United States. The controversy began when Stephen Chung, a spokesperson for Donald Trump, posted a video on the social media platform X, formerly Twitter, featuring the song Freedom by Beyonce. The video depicted Trump disembarking from a plane, accompanied by the empowering anthem from Beyonce's 2016 album Lemonade. This use of the song was particularly contentious because Freedom had already been permanently associated with Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. Harris's team had previously secured permission from Beyonce to use the song as an anthem for her campaign, symbolizing themes of liberation and empowerment. Beyonce's representatives quickly responded to the unauthorized use of her song by sending a cease and desist letter to Trump's campaign. This legal action was intended to prevent further use of the song without proper authorization. The video was subsequently removed from Chung's social media account, highlighting the effectiveness of the legal intervention. The song Freedom holds significant cultural and political weight. It features themes of personal, spiritual, and political liberation, and it has been embraced as an anthem for social and racial justice movements. Beyonce's performance of the song, alongside Kendrick Lamar, at various events has reinforced its association with the fight for racial equality and justice. For Kamala Harris, the song has become a central element of her campaign, symbolizing her message of hope and change as she seeks to unite the Democratic Party and the nation. The incident underscores the broader cultural and political dynamics at play in the United States. Music has long been a powerful tool in political campaigns, capable of conveying messages and rallying support. However, the unauthorized use of music can lead to legal disputes and public backlash, as seen in this case. The cease and desist order from Beyonce's team highlights the importance of respecting intellectual property rights, even in the high-stakes world of political campaigning. Furthermore, the incident reflects the ongoing cultural divide in American politics. Beyonce, known for her support of Democratic candidates and social justice causes, represents a cultural force that stands in contrast to Trump's political rhetoric and policies. The clash over the use of freedom is emblematic of the broader cultural and ideological battles that characterize the current political landscape. In conclusion, the controversy surrounding the unauthorized use of Beyonce's freedom by Trump's campaign serves as a reminder of the powerful role that music plays in political discourse. It highlights the need for campaigns to navigate the complexities of intellectual property rights while also reflecting the deep cultural and political divides that continue to shape American society. The recent controversy involving former President Donald Trump and Taylor Swift's fanbase, known as the Swifties, underscores the complex interplay between celebrity influence and political discourse. This situation arose when Trump shared AI-generated images suggesting that Swift and her fans endorsed him, despite no such endorsement being made by Swift herself. Taylor Swift is a prominent figure in American culture and has increasingly become a significant voice in political matters. Known for her advocacy on social issues such as gender equality, LGBTQ+ rights, and racial justice, Swift has historically endorsed Democratic candidates, including Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the 2020 election. Her political stance has often been at odds with Trump's policies and rhetoric, as evidenced by her public criticism of him during his presidency. The controversy began when Trump posted AI-generated images on his Truth Social platform, depicting Swift and her fans as supporters of his candidacy. These images included Swift portrayed as Uncle Sam and fans wearing Swifties for Trump t-shirts. Trump captioned the images with "I accept," implying an endorsement that did not exist. The images were marked as satire, and the creator confirmed their satirical intent. However, the dissemination of these images led to significant media attention and backlash from Swift's fanbase. The Swifties, known for their strong online presence and activism, quickly refuted the implication that they supported Trump, emphasizing their alignment with Swift's previously stated political views. The incident highlights several important aspects of the intersection between celebrity influence and politics. Taylor Swift's influence extends beyond music, impacting voter registration and political engagement among her fans. Her ability to mobilize and inspire action demonstrates the power of celebrity endorsements in shaping public opinion and political outcomes. The use of AI-generated images in political discourse raises concerns about misinformation and the potential for technology to distort reality. This incident illustrates the challenges of navigating truth in the digital age, where manipulated content can spread rapidly and influence perceptions. The swift response from Swift's fans underscores the role of fan communities and political activism. The Swifties' rejection of the false endorsement reflects their commitment to the values Swift has championed and their willingness to engage in political discourse to support those values. The clash between Trump and Taylor Swift's fanbase over AI-generated images serves as a reminder of the powerful role celebrities can play in political discourse and the potential for technology to complicate that influence. As the 2024 election approaches, the incident underscores the importance of media literacy and the need for vigilance against misinformation in shaping informed political engagement.
Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that's been making headlines: the importance of Donald Trump releasing his medical records, especially as he runs for office again. Let's explore why this transparency is crucial. More than 230 doctors and healthcare professionals have publicly called on Donald Trump to release his medical records. They argue that transparency about his health is essential, particularly given his age of 78. This call is not just about curiosity. It's about ensuring that a potential leader is fit for the demanding role of president. Traditionally, presidential candidates have disclosed their medical records to assure the public of their fitness for office. For instance, John McCain released his medical details during his 2008 campaign. Trump himself released some health information in 2016 and 2020. However, this time, there's been a noticeable delay. Transparency about a candidate's health can bolster public confidence. When voters are aware of a candidate's health status, they can make informed decisions at the polls. Concealing health information can lead to speculation and mistrust, potentially affecting a candidate's credibility and the public's perception of their capability. The presidency is an incredibly demanding job requiring mental acuity and physical stamina. Concerns have been raised about Trump's cognitive abilities due to observed behaviors such as rambling and lashing out during public appearances. These behaviors could be indicative of cognitive decline, which makes the release of his medical records even more pertinent. While some argue that health is a private matter, others believe that when someone seeks public office, especially at the highest level, they owe it to the public to disclose relevant health information. This disclosure can prevent opponents from using health issues as political weapons and allows voters to focus on policy rather than speculation. In conclusion, releasing medical records is not just about transparency. It's about ensuring that voters have all the necessary information to make informed decisions. As Trump seeks another term in office, understanding his health status is crucial for assessing his ability to handle the pressures of the presidency. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on current events and political insights. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Why do politicians lie? The phenomenon of politicians lying is a complex issue that intertwines with human psychology, societal norms, and the political landscape. While it is easy to dismiss political dishonesty as a mere character flaw, the reasons behind it are multifaceted and deeply rooted in the dynamics of power, communication, and public expectations. One of the primary reasons politicians lie is to gain or maintain power. In democratic systems, politicians are often motivated to tell voters what they want to hear to secure votes. This can involve exaggerating achievements, making unrealistic promises, or distorting the truth about opponents. The electoral process rewards those who can effectively appeal to voter biases and desires, even if it involves deception. Politicians may lie to manage risks associated with scandals or unpopular decisions. Admitting to wrongdoing can lead to a loss of popularity and political capital, whereas denying it might allow them to maintain their position if they are not caught. This risk-reward calculation can make lying a tempting strategy, especially in high-stakes situations. Society's tolerance for political lies plays a significant role. Voters often prefer comforting falsehoods over harsh truths, and this societal preference can encourage politicians to lie. Moreover, the public's cynicism towards politics can create an environment where dishonesty is expected and, to some extent, accepted. Politicians, like many individuals, often rationalize their lies by believing that the ends justify the means. They may convince themselves that their deception serves a greater good, such as protecting national security or implementing beneficial policies. This self-justification can make lying seem less morally reprehensible. Persistent lying by politicians can lead to a significant erosion of public trust in political institutions. When the public becomes aware of deceit, it can foster cynicism and disengagement from the political process. This loss of trust is difficult to regain and can have long-term implications for democratic governance. When political lying becomes commonplace, it can normalize deception in other areas of society. People may begin to view dishonesty as an acceptable means to achieve goals, leading to broader ethical and moral decay. Lies can distort policy discussions and lead to the implementation of ineffective or harmful policies. When decisions are based on misinformation, it can result in suboptimal outcomes that fail to address the real issues at hand. To mitigate the prevalence of political lying, several measures can be considered. Strengthening mechanisms for holding politicians accountable, such as independent fact-checking organizations and robust legal frameworks, can deter dishonesty. Educating the public to critically evaluate political statements and recognize misinformation can reduce the effectiveness of lies. Fostering a political culture that values truthfulness and integrity can help shift norms away from accepting deception as a standard practice. In conclusion, while political lying is a pervasive issue, understanding its underlying causes and consequences is crucial for developing strategies to address it. By fostering a culture of accountability and honesty, societies can strive for more transparent and truthful governance.
Okay, so have you ever been scrolling through the news and you see a politician or a celebrity doing something just truly wild, and you think to yourself,
Yeah.
what in the world possessed them to do something like that?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like more and more these days we're seeing these public figures, especially those in positions of power, acting in ways that are just totally out of line with what we thought we knew about them.
Yeah, it's a question really that's fascinated philosophers, psychologists, really anyone for centuries. What is it that makes good people do bad things? And today, we're going to dive deep into one particularly fascinating
Oh, yeah?
and honestly kind of disturbing piece of research, the Stanford prison experiment.
I mean, this experiment is practically infamous at this point.
Right.
But before we unpack it, I think it's important to clarify, we're not here saying that every politician or every person in a suit, for that matter,
Right.
is some secret evil mastermind.
Right. Exactly. The Stanford prison experiment, it's not about labeling individuals as inherently good or evil. It's more about trying to understand this incredible power that our surroundings, like our environment, actually has to shape our actions, even in ways that we could never even imagine.
So let's set the scene here. It's 1971, and we're in the basement of Stanford University, which, believe it or not, has been completely transformed into this mock prison.
Yeah.
What were these researchers even hoping to find down there?
So the experiment was led by this guy, Dr. Philip Zimbardo, and he really wanted to study the psychological effects of power, specifically when it came to a prison setting, right?
Okay.
So they found 24 college students, all of whom were deemed totally psychologically healthy and normal.
Right.
And they randomly assigned these students to be either guards or prisoners.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, right? Because we're not talking about hardened criminals here.
No.
These are just average college students. They didn't have some history of violence or, mental instability or anything like that. And yet things took a really dark turn almost immediately.
Almost immediately. So these guards, right? They were given uniforms. They had these mirrored sunglasses to prevent any kind of eye contact, to increase the anonymity.
Oh, interesting.
And their only instructions were maintain order.
Okay.
That's it. And incredibly quickly, they start exhibiting this authoritarian, almost abusive behavior toward the prisoners.
That's wild. It's almost like they just got swept up in those roles.
Yeah.
Their behavior just completely changed to fit this new environment and this power that they thought that they had.
And that's exactly what happened. Even the researchers, they were blown away by just how quickly the participants, especially the guards, embraced these roles. There was even one guard that the prisoners nicknamed John Wayne.
Wow.
Because he was so just harsh and he came up with all of these creative punishments to inflict,
Oh my God.
And it's really chilling because you see how quickly a normal person, seemingly normal, can transform when they're put into a position of power.
Right.
And it doesn't even have to be real power, right? This
Right.
was all simulated.
Exactly.
And that's the core of what we're getting at today. The Stanford prison experiment, yeah, it's ethically controversial, for sure, but it gives us a really stark look at how our situations can seriously affect the way we behave. And often, the way we behave, goes completely against our own personal values or beliefs.
So how did the prisoners react to all this? I mean, I can't imagine it was easy being on the other side of that power dynamic once everything started to shift.
So at first they resisted, which
Got it.
makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But then the guards, they started using these psychological tactics, sleep deprivation. They forced them into nudity, put them in solitary confinement. These are all like classic tactics designed to break a person down, to take away their sense of self and make them more vulnerable to control.
And it worked.
Sadly, yeah, it did. The prisoners, they became more and more passive, they were submissive, and a lot of them, became extremely distressed. Some of them actually had mental breakdowns, which is part of the reason why the experiment had to be shut down early. The psychological harm was just too much.
It's awful. It's hard to believe that all of that suffering came from just changing the environment. Like giving someone a different role based on a flip of a coin. I mean, these were regular college kids just a few days before.
Right, and that's what makes the Stanford prison experiment so powerful and, frankly, so unsettling. It wasn't about finding some, inherently bad people. It was about the power of the situation itself. The system, it turns out, has a much bigger effect on how we act than we might realize.
And I think that's something that a lot of people listening right now might be relating to. Because, the Stanford prison experiment, that was obviously a very extreme situation. But don't we see echoes of this same kind of thing happening in the real world all the time?
Oh, absolutely. All the time. We see it online with mob mentality. Yeah. Or, like you were saying before, with some of these politicians and the decisions that they're making.
Right. It's like the line between who we are as people and the roles that we're playing, it starts to get really blurry.
Yeah.
You start to think, are they really making decisions based on what they believe? Or are they just playing the part?
Right. Or are they just doing what they think they're supposed to do?
Right.
Yeah. And that's a huge question.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads us to this idea of systemic factors versus individual responsibility.
Okay, so let's break that down a little bit. What do we even mean when we say systemic factors?
So when we talk about systemic factors, what we're really getting at is this idea that our actions, they're not just the result of our own individual choices. We're not just these isolated beings making decisions in a vacuum, right? We exist within these systems, social structures, cultural norms, power dynamics, all these things are working in the background, and they have a really strong influence on us. And honestly, a lot of times we don't even realize it's happening.
So it's not just about whether I'm a good person or not. It's about the entire context I'm operating within.
Right, exactly.
It's the pressures, the expectations, all of that. It's there's that old saying, right? Absolute power corrupts absolute.
100%. Imagine you've got a seed, right? And you plant that seed in this really fertile ground.
Yep.
And then you take another seed, the same kind of seed, and you plant it in barren soil. Right. So the seeds themselves, they have the same potential, but what happens to them will be totally different based on where they are, right?
Right.
It's the environment. And it's the same thing with people. Your environment, your position, your power or lack of power, it all influences you. It can either bring out your best qualities or it can totally stifle them.
So are you saying that, even someone who really values integrity, deep down, could still be influenced to do something unethical if they felt pressured by, by their job, their family, society, anything like that?
Yeah, and that's kind of a scary thought.
It is.
It doesn't mean that people aren't responsible for what they do, but it does mean that we need to consider the whole picture. We need to look at the situation, especially in situations where the power dynamics are totally out of whack, because they can really influence what we do, even when we think we're above it.
So taking that back to the politicians, right?
Yeah.
Could this explain why we see some of them, even though they campaigned on, being ethical and transparent and all that? Could this be why they end up doing things that seem hypocritical or selfish once they actually get into office?
I mean, it's definitely something to think about, right?
Yeah.
Because think about it. They're under all this pressure to follow the party line, to keep their donors happy, to look good in the public eye. And all that can really wear down a person's moral compass, even if they started out with good intentions.
That makes a lot of sense. So you're saying, if we took that same person, right, and we put them in a different environment, one where they're held accountable, one where they don't have all that pressure to conform, is it possible that they would make completely different choices?
It's tough to say for sure, because obviously everyone is different.
Right.
But the Stanford prison experiment, along with, decades of research on how people act in groups and how obedient we can be to authority, it seems like most of us are more susceptible to these outside influences than we realize. Like, way more susceptible.
Okay, so this is starting to feel kind of bleak.
Yeah.
Are we all just doomed to become like puppets of our environment?
No.
Is there any hope here?
No, don't despair. The good news is that simply understanding these forces, it's the first step in fighting back against them. Dr. Zimbardo, despite all the controversy around the experiment, he actually went on to do a ton of research on how we can build what he calls moral resilience.
Moral resilience. I like the sound of that.
Right.
So how do we actually cultivate that? Especially in a world that honestly feels like it's getting more and more morally ambiguous.
It starts with being self-aware. Like, we have to be really honest with ourselves about our weaknesses, our biases, the situations that make us more likely to just give in to pressure.
So like knowing your triggers.
Right.
Knowing what sets you off or what situations might bring out like the worst in you.
Exactly. And then, once you know that, you can try to make better choices about the environments you put yourself in, the people you surround yourself with. Like, surround yourself with people who share your values, who'll call you out when you're slipping up.
That makes sense. And it's not all on the individual, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking about how systems influence our behavior.
Exactly.
So what can we do about the systems themselves?
That's the million-dollar question. But it's important to remember that we're not powerless here, right? Like, we have a voice.
Okay.
We can advocate for change. We can push for systems that are more transparent, that hold people accountable, that actually encourage ethical behavior.
Okay, so it's a two-pronged approach. We've got individual responsibility working together with collective action to make these bigger changes.
Exactly. And listen, it's not about being perfect. No one is perfect.
Right.
We all mess up. We all have times where we don't live up to our own standards.
Yeah.
The important thing is to learn from it, to try to do better the next time around.
So it's all about progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
I like that. Speaking of progress, have we actually seen any real-world examples of positive change happening? Because people are starting to understand these forces, this whole power of the barrel thing.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, good.
And some of them might surprise you.
You were saying there are some real-world examples of like positive change that we can look at, where people have taken these ideas and actually made things better.
Exactly. Yeah. And some of them are, like I said, pretty surprising.
Okay.
One area is, believe it or not, the criminal justice system.
Really?
Oh.
I gotta say, that's not the first place I would think of
Yeah, no, I get it.
when we're talking about hope.
Right. But there's been a huge shift over the last few decades. People are taking what we learned from Stanford, what we learned from other research on this stuff, and they're trying to bring it into law enforcement, into prisons.
So they're using these insights to actually change how these systems work, make them more humane.
Exact. So, for example, a lot of police departments now are doing this de-escalation training.
Oh, okay.
They're teaching officers how to, defuse a situation before it gets out of control.
Yeah.
How to avoid using force unless it's absolutely necessary.
Right.
Because they're realizing that when people are stressed, when they're under pressure,
Yeah.
they don't always make the best choices, right?
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. If you can give people the tools to handle those high-pressure situations, even people in positions of authority, it seems obvious that the outcomes would be better, right?
For sure. And it's not just about changing individual behaviors either, right? It's
Yeah.
about changing the whole system. So, for instance, we're seeing this push for more community policing, where officers are encouraged to get to know the people in the community, build relationships,
Right.
which helps to break down those barriers, the US versus them stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
That can lead to so many problems.
It's like you were saying before, shifting the environment itself.
Exactly.
So it's not just a bad barrel anymore.
Exactly.
It's about changing the barrel itself.
100%. And we're seeing this in other areas too, not just policing. There's way more awareness now about diversity and inclusion.
Right.
In all kinds of organizations. And part of that is because people are realizing that when you have a group where everyone thinks the same way,
Oh, yeah.
it can be really dangerous.
Like a hive mind almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Groupthink takes over, no one questions anything.
So having different voices, different perspectives, that's like a protection against making those blind, obedient decisions that can be really harmful.
100%. When people feel like they can actually speak their minds, challenge the way things are, it creates a much more ethical environment.
Yeah.
And honestly, a more successful one too.
That's so interesting. Well, we covered a lot today.
Yeah.
From the dark side of human nature with the Stanford prison experiment all the way to some really inspiring examples of how we can make things better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as we wrap up here, is there one final thought that you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that self-awareness, being aware of yourself, aware of your surroundings, it's incredibly powerful. The more we understand the forces that are acting on us, the better choices we can make, the more we can resist doing things that go against what we believe. And ultimately, I think we can create a better world.
That's a really powerful message. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today. And listeners, we want to hear from you. Have you ever felt that Lucifer effect in your own life? Let us know. You can find us on all the socials, and let's keep this conversation going.
In the ever-evolving landscape of American politics, endorsements and alliances can significantly influence the direction and outcome of electoral campaigns. A recent development in the 2024 presidential race involves Robert F. Kennedy Jr., an independent candidate, reportedly considering dropping out of the race and endorsing former President Donald Trump. This potential move highlights the strategic calculations that candidates make in pursuit of their political goals. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. entered the 2024 presidential race with a unique position, initially launching his campaign as a Democrat before deciding to run as an independent. His campaign has focused on a range of issues, including environmental concerns and skepticism toward certain public health measures, such as vaccinations. Despite his prominent family name and initial support, Kennedy's campaign has faced challenges, including declining poll numbers and financial constraints. Reports suggest that Kennedy is considering endorsing Donald Trump, a move that would mark a significant shift in his campaign strategy. This decision is reportedly motivated by several factors, including the desire to influence the election's outcome and align with a candidate who shares some of his views. The endorsement could also be seen as a pragmatic choice to consolidate support against the Democratic candidate, Kamala Harris, whom Kennedy and his running mate, Nicole Shanahan, have expressed concerns about. Implications of the endorsement. The potential endorsement of Trump by Kennedy could have notable implications for the 2024 presidential race. Firstly, it could alter the dynamics of voter support, particularly among independent and swing voters who may have been considering Kennedy as an alternative. By endorsing Trump, Kennedy could help consolidate votes that might otherwise be split, potentially strengthening Trump's position in key battleground states. Additionally, discussions between Kennedy and Trump's team reportedly include the possibility of Kennedy playing a role in a future Trump administration. This suggests that the endorsement is not merely symbolic, but could involve tangible political collaboration. From a strategic perspective, Kennedy's decision reflects the complex calculations that candidates must make in a competitive political environment. Endorsements can serve as powerful tools to shift public perception, influence voter behavior, and build coalitions. For Kennedy, endorsing Trump may represent an opportunity to remain influential in the political arena, even if it means stepping back from his own presidential aspirations. The potential endorsement of Donald Trump by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. underscores the fluid nature of political alliances and the strategic maneuvers that characterize electoral campaigns. As the 2024 presidential race unfolds, such developments will continue to shape the narratives and outcomes of the election. Ultimately, this situation highlights the importance of adaptability and strategic foresight in the pursuit of political objectives. This essay provides a balanced perspective on the potential endorsement, focusing on the strategic and political implications without taking a partisan stance. Discover the dark art of political manipulation and how master manipulators pulled the strings behind the scenes. Master manipulators in power often have hidden agendas. They control the narrative, shaping public opinion to serve their interests. By understanding their tactics, you can see through the smoke and mirrors they use to maintain control. Let's decode their tactics. Master manipulators use a range of psychological tricks to influence you. They exploit fear, guilt, and hope to sway your opinions and decisions. For instance, they might create a crisis to present themselves as the only solution or use propaganda to distort facts. Consider real-life examples: political leaders who manipulate media coverage to distract from scandals, or those who spread misinformation to divide and conquer. These tactics have a profound impact on society and democracy, eroding trust in institutions and polarizing communities. By recognizing these manipulative strategies, you can better understand the forces at play in political arenas and protect yourself from being unwittingly influenced. Empower yourself by learning to recognize the signs of manipulation. Pay attention to inconsistencies in messages and look for emotional triggers designed to sway your judgment. Protect your mindset by questioning the motives behind political statements and media reports. Strengthen your critical thinking skills by seeking out diverse sources of information and engaging in thoughtful discussions. By doing so, you can make informed decisions that reflect your true beliefs and values rather than being swayed by manipulative tactics. Remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about these psychological tricks, the better equipped you'll be to navigate the complex landscape of political manipulation. Take control by subscribing for more insight. Share this video to spread awareness and help others recognize the signs of being manipulated. Comment below with your thoughts and experiences. Your voice matters in this conversation. Together, we can build a more informed and resilient community. The mystery behind cult attraction. Ever wonder why even smart people join cults? It's a phenomenon that baffles many, yet it happens more often than you think. Let's dive into the mystery behind this intriguing attraction. Why this matters to you. Understanding the appeal of cults is crucial, especially in today's interconnected world. Cults aren't just fringe groups, they can significantly influence political and social movements, sometimes steering them in dangerous directions. For those seeking direction, especially in the political realm, recognizing the allure of cults can be a game changer. Why does this matter to you? Well, personal vulnerabilities play a significant role in cult attraction. You don't have to be lost or weak to fall into a cult's grasp. Many intelligent, politically active individuals find themselves drawn to these groups during periods of uncertainty or transition. The promise of belonging, purpose, and even power can be incredibly enticing. Moreover, understanding how cults operate can help you identify potential red flags in your own life or the lives of those around you. Whether it's a charismatic leader making grand promises or an organization demanding absolute loyalty, knowing what to look for can make all the difference. In essence, by decoding why people join cults, you'll gain valuable insights into human behavior and societal dynamics. This knowledge empowers you to make informed decisions and protect yourself and others from potentially harmful influences. So, let's delve deeper into this fascinating topic and uncover the psychological triggers that make cults so compelling. Decoding the cult phenomenon. To truly understand why people join cults, we must first define what a cult is. Often, the term conjures up images of bizarre rituals and isolated communes, but it's more nuanced than that. A cult is typically characterized by a charismatic leader who demands unwavering loyalty, a set of beliefs that are often extreme or unconventional, and practices that can isolate members from the outside world. Psychological triggers play a significant role in drawing people into cults. These can include a desire for belonging, a need for purpose, or even a search for identity. During times of personal or societal upheaval, these needs become more pronounced. Cults offer a seemingly clear path to fulfillment, promising answers to life's big questions and solutions to personal struggles. Common characteristics of cults include manipulative recruitment tactics, emotional and sometimes physical isolation, and an us versus them mentality. These groups often prey on people's vulnerabilities, using love-bombing techniques to make new members feel immediately accepted and valued. Over time, this initial warmth can turn into coercive control, where questioning or dissent is not tolerated. By understanding these elements, we can begin to see how even the most intelligent and politically active individuals might find themselves entangled in such organizations. It's not just about intelligence, it's about emotional needs and psychological vulnerabilities that cults are adept at exploiting. Let's move on to see how these concepts play out in real-world scenarios. Real-world implications. One of the most harrowing examples of cult dynamics at play is the Jonestown tragedy. In 1978, over 900 members of the People's Temple, led by Jim Jones, died in a mass murder-suicide. This tragedy highlights how powerful a charismatic leader can be and how far-reaching the control of a cult can extend. Members were isolated, manipulated, and ultimately coerced into taking their own lives or the lives of their loved ones. But cults are not relics of the past. They have evolved with technology. Modern cults now operate both online and offline, using social media and other digital platforms to recruit and control members. These groups often present themselves as self-help organizations, political movements, or exclusive clubs offering insider knowledge. The internet has made it easier for these groups to reach vulnerable individuals and maintain control over them, even from a distance. Recognizing the signs of cult influence in everyday life is crucial. Look out for people who suddenly become secretive, withdraw from long-standing relationships, or show unwavering loyalty to a single leader or ideology. These are often red flags indicating that someone might be under the influence of a cult. Understanding these real-world implications not only helps you protect yourself, but also enables you to assist others who might be at risk. By being aware of how cults operate and recognizing the warning signs, you can help prevent another tragedy like Jonestown and mitigate the impact of modern-day cults on society. Bringing theory to life. Let's delve into some examples to illustrate how cults operate and influence their members. One of the most compelling aspects of cults is their charismatic leaders. These individuals often possess a magnetic personality that draws people in. Take, for example, Charles Manson, who led the Manson family. His ability to charm and manipulate his followers was so profound that they committed heinous crimes at his behest. Charismatic leaders like Manson use their influence to create a sense of trust and dependency among their followers, making it difficult for them to question or leave the group. Another critical technique used by cults is isolation. By cutting off members from outside influences, cults can control the flow of information and reinforce their own narrative. For instance, in the case of Heaven's Gate, members were encouraged to sever ties with family and friends and live communally, further isolating them from any dissenting opinions. This isolation creates an echo chamber where the cult's beliefs go unchallenged, making it easier to maintain control over its members. Additionally, cults employ various psychological manipulation tactics such as love bombing, where new recruits are showered with affection and attention to make them feel valued and accepted. This initial phase is crucial for establishing emotional bonds that are later exploited for control. By examining these examples, we can see how cults use a combination of charismatic leadership, isolation, and psychological manipulation to attract and retain members. Understanding these techniques can help us recognize potential cult influences in our own lives and protect ourselves and others from falling into these dangerous traps. Wrapping it all up. To wrap things up, let's revisit the key points we've explored about why people join cults. Firstly, the appeal of cults lies in their ability to offer a sense of belonging, purpose, and identity during times of personal or societal upheaval. Even the most intelligent and politically active individuals can find themselves drawn to these groups due to their emotional and psychological needs. We defined a cult as an organization led by a charismatic leader who demands unwavering loyalty, often using manipulative tactics to recruit and control members. These groups isolate their followers from external influences and create an us versus them mentality to maintain control. Real-world examples like the Jonestown tragedy and Heaven's Gate illustrate the devastating impact cults can have on individuals and society. Modern cults have adapted to the digital age, using online platforms to reach and influence a broader audience. Recognizing the signs of cult influence in everyday life is essential. Look out for sudden secrecy, withdrawal from established relationships, and blind loyalty to a leader or ideology. Being aware of these red flags can help protect you and those around you from falling victim to such organizations. Understanding the dynamics of cults empowers you to make informed decisions and safeguard against potentially harmful influences. By decoding why people join cults and recognizing their tactics, we can mitigate their impact on our lives and society. Thank you for joining us in this thought-provoking exploration, and stay vigilant.